Bruce Springsteen. Bruce Springsteen was born in Long Branch, New Jersey in 1949, but grew up in nearby Freehold. During his peak in the mid-80s, he lived in Rumson, New Jersey while touring the world with the E Street Band. His 1984 album, Born in the USA, produced 7 top 10 hit singles and made him a global superstar. What many fans don't know is that he originally wrote Hungry Heart for the Ramones, but decided to keep it for himself. Today, at 75 years old, Bruce still performs regularly and lives on a horse farm in Colts Neck, New Jersey, with his wife Patty Cialfa. In 2023, he completed another successful world tour, proving that the boss has no plans of slowing down. Madonna Louise Ciccone was born in Bay City, Michigan in 1958 and moved to New York City in 1978 to pursue dance. During her peak in the mid-80s to early 90s, she split her time between New York and Los Angeles, while revolutionizing pop music and fashion. Did you know that before becoming famous, Madonna worked at Dunkin' Donuts, but got fired for squirting jelly filling on a customer? Today, at 66 years old, Madonna divides her time between homes in New York City and Lisbon, Portugal. She continues to perform and released her 14th studio album in 2023, proving that the Material Girl's creative spirit remains undiminished after 4 decades in the spotlight. Stevie Wonder was born in Saginaw, Michigan in 1950 and moved to Detroit as a child. During his peak in the 1970s, he lived in Los Angeles while creating masterpieces like Inner Visions and Songs in the Key of Life. Many people don't realize that Stevie signed with Motown when he was just 11 years old and was initially marketed as Little Stevie Wonder. Today, at 74 years old, Stevie still lives in Los Angeles and continues to perform occasionally. He remains active in music production and humanitarian causes, using his platform to advocate for social justice and disability rights. His musical legacy spans over 60 years and continues to influence generations of musicians across all genres. Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton was born in a one-room cabin in Locust Ridge, Tennessee, one of 12 children from an impoverished family. During her peak in the late 70s and early 80s, she lived in Nashville while becoming a crossover star with hits like 9 to 5 and Islands in the Stream. Here's something amazing. She wrote both I Will Always Love You and Jolene on the same day in 1973. Today, at 79 years old, Dolly divides her time between homes in Nashville and Brentwood, Tennessee. She remains incredibly active with her Dollywood theme park, extensive philanthropic work including the Imagination Library, and continues to release new music. Her recent rock album showed that the country icon still loves to reinvent herself nearly 60 years into her legendary career. Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was born in Gary, Indiana in 1958, starting his career at just 5 years old as part of the Jackson 5. During his peak in the 1980s, he lived in Encino, California before moving to his famous Neverland Ranch. His album, Thriller, completely revolutionized music and remains the best-selling album ever. Many remember when Michael shocked the world with his moonwalk during the Motown 25th anniversary special in 1983. Sadly, Michael passed away on June 25, 2009, at age 50, while living in a rented mansion in Holmby Hills, Los Angeles. Despite controversies that surrounded his later life, his musical legacy continues to influence artists across all genres, and his catalog remains among the most valuable in the music industry. Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan was born as Robert Allen Zimmerman in Duluth, Minnesota in 1941 and raised in Hibbing. During his peak in the mid-60s, he lived in Woodstock, New York while revolutionizing folk and rock with poetic lyrics that earned him a Nobel Prize in Literature decades later. Not everyone knows that he changed his name after being inspired by poet Dylan Thomas. Today, at 83 years old, Bob primarily lives in Malibu, California, though he owns multiple properties. He continues his never-ending tour that began in 1988, performing around 100 shows annually. In 2020, he surprised fans with Rough and Rowdy Ways, his first album of original material in 8 years, proving that one of America's greatest songwriters still has plenty to say. Aretha Franklin. Aretha Franklin was born in Memphis, Tennessee in 1942, but moved to Detroit at age 4, where her father was a prominent minister. During her peak in the late 60s, she lived in Detroit while recording her most iconic hits like Respect and Chain of Fools. A groundbreaking achievement that showcased her importance to music. Aretha was the first female performer ever inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987. Sadly, Aretha passed away from pancreatic cancer on August 16, 2018, at age 76 in her longtime home of Detroit. Her funeral was a star-studded celebration of her life and career, with former presidents and music legends paying tribute to the undisputed Queen of Soul, whose powerful voice and message of respect changed American music forever. Prince Rogers Nelson was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota in 1958 and remained loyal to his hometown throughout his life. During his peak in the mid-80s, he lived and worked at his famous Paisley Park complex in Chanhassen, Minnesota, where he created masterpieces like Purple Rain. Many fans don't realize Prince was a musical prodigy who could play over 25 instruments, and often recorded entire albums by himself, playing every single instrument. Sadly, Prince passed away on April 21, 2016, at age 57, in his beloved Paisley Park home from an accidental overdose of fentanyl. His death shocked the music world, but his innovative blend of funk, rock, R&B, and pop continues to influence countless artists. Today, Paisley Park operates as a museum where fans can visit and celebrate his extraordinary musical legacy. Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston was born in Newark, New Jersey in 1963 into a musical family. Her mother was gospel singer Cissy Houston, and her cousin was Dionne Warwick. During her peak in the early 90s, she lived in a lavish estate in Mendham, New Jersey, while dominating both music and film with The Bodyguard and its record-breaking soundtrack. Before she became known as The Voice, Whitney actually started as a fashion model and graced the cover of Seventeen magazine when she was just 17 years old. Tragically, Whitney passed away on February 11, 2012, at age 48, in a hotel room in Beverly Hills, California. Despite her struggles later in life, her extraordinary vocal talent left an indelible mark on music history. With over 200 million records sold worldwide, and countless artists citing her as their primary influence. Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix was born in Seattle, Washington in 1942, but had to move to London to get his big break after struggling in the US music scene. During his peak in the late 60s, he split his time between London and New York City, while revolutionizing what could be done with an electric guitar. A fascinating detail about his playing style: Jimi played right-handed guitars upside down and restrung because he was naturally left-handed. Tragically, Jimi passed away on September 18, 1970, at just 27 years old in London, from complications related to drug use. Despite his short career spanning just 4 years, his innovative techniques and experimental sound permanently altered the course of rock music. Guitar legends from Stevie Ray Vaughan to John Mayer consider him the greatest guitarist who ever lived. Billy Joel was born in the Bronx, New York in 1949 and grew up in Hicksville on Long Island. During his peak in the late 70s and early 80s, he lived in Oyster Bay, Long Island, while creating hit albums like The Stranger and Glass Houses. Most people don't know that before music, Billy had a short boxing career and won 22 matches, before quitting after his nose was broken in his 24th fight. Today, at 75 years old, Billy lives in Sag Harbor, New York. And though he hasn't released a new pop album since 1993, he continues to perform regularly. His Madison Square Garden monthly residency became the longest-running arena engagement in history, proving that the Piano Man still has plenty of fans eager to hear those classic songs live. Tina Turner. Tina Turner was born Anna Mae Bullock in Brownsville, Tennessee in 1939. During her peak in the mid-80s, she lived in Los Angeles while staging one of the greatest comebacks in music history with her album, Private Dancer. Many don't know that Tina found strength in Buddhist practices and chanting, which she credited with giving her the courage to leave her abusive marriage to Ike Turner in 1976. Tina passed away on May 24, 2023, at age 83 in her adopted home of Küsnacht, Switzerland, where she had lived since the 1990s and became a Swiss citizen. Her remarkable journey from rural Tennessee to global superstardom, followed by her inspiring personal triumph over adversity, cemented her legacy as the undisputed Queen of Rock and Roll, whose powerful voice and electrifying performances captivated audiences for over 60 years. Buddy Holly was born in Lubbock, Texas in 1936, where he began playing country music before transitioning to rock and roll. During his brief peak, he split time between his hometown and New York City, where he recorded many of his biggest hits. What many people don't realize is that Buddy was a true innovator in the studio, pioneering techniques like double-tracking vocals that are still used by producers today. Tragically, Buddy's life and career were cut short when he died in a plane crash on February 3, 1959, at just 22 years old, a day later known as the day the music died. Despite his career lasting only 18 months, Buddy's influence on rock music is immeasurable, with artists from the Beatles to the Rolling Stones citing him as a primary influence on their sound and style. Diana Ross was born in Detroit, Michigan in 1944 and grew up in the Brewster Douglas housing projects. During her peak in the 60s and 70s, she lived primarily in Los Angeles while first leading the Supremes and then launching a successful solo career. An amazing recognition of her talent, Billboard magazine named her Female Entertainer of the Century in 1976, when she was just 32 years old. Today, at 80 years old, Diana divides her time between homes in Los Angeles and Paris, France. She continues to perform and record new music, embarking on concert tours and making appearances at major events. In 2023, she headlined the Glastonbury Festival in the UK, proving that this legendary diva still has the star power and vocal prowess that made her one of Motown's greatest success stories. Janis Joplin. Janis Joplin was born in Port Arthur, Texas, in 1943 and moved to San Francisco to escape the conservative values of her hometown. During her peak in the late 60s, she lived in San Francisco's Haight-Ashbury district, while becoming the premier female rock vocalist of her era with her band Big Brother and the Holding Company. A colorful detail about Janis: she drove a psychedelically painted Porsche 356 convertible that became almost as famous as she was. Tragically, Janis passed away on October 4, 1970, at just 27 years old from a heroin overdose in a Hollywood hotel room. Despite her short career, her powerful, raspy voice and uninhibited stage presence broke barriers for women in rock music, and her influence can be heard in generations of female vocalists who followed in her footsteps. Ray Charles Robinson was born in Albany, Georgia in 1930 and grew up in poverty in Florida. During his peak in the 50s and 60s, he lived in Los Angeles while revolutionizing American music by blending rhythm and blues with gospel to create soul music. It's remarkable that after losing his sight completely by age 7 due to glaucoma, Ray learned to play piano at Florida's School for the Deaf and Blind. Ray passed away on June 10, 2004, at age 73 in Beverly Hills, California from liver disease. His musical legacy is so profound that he was one of the first inductees into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and his version of Georgia on My Mind became the official state song of Georgia in 1979, a remarkable honor for a black artist during that era. Johnny Cash was born in Kingsland, Arkansas in 1932 during the Great Depression and grew up working in cotton fields with his family. During his peak, he lived in Nashville and later in a lakeside home in Hendersonville, Tennessee, with his wife, June Carter Cash. Here's something wild. Johnny was actually sued by the federal government for starting a forest fire with his camper truck that burned 508 acres in Los Padres National Forest. Johnny passed away on September 12, 2003, at age 71 in Nashville, just 4 months after losing his beloved wife, June. His career renaissance in his final years with the American Recordings series introduced the Man in Black to a new generation of fans, capping off a legendary career that spanned country, rock, gospel, and folk music with his distinctive deep baritone voice. Cher was born as Sherilyn Sarkisian in El Centro, California in 1946. During her peak in the 60s and 70s, she lived in Los Angeles while first gaining fame as part of Sonny and Cher, and then as a solo artist and actress. A truly remarkable achievement. Cher is the only artist in history to have a #1 single on the Billboard charts in 6 consecutive decades, from the 1960s to the 2010s. Today, at 78 years old, Cher still lives in her oceanfront mansion in Malibu, California. She continues to perform, record, and advocate for causes she believes in. In 2023, she released her first ever Christmas album and continues to defy expectations, showing why she's earned the title Goddess of Pop, with her extraordinary ability to reinvent herself across multiple entertainment mediums over more than 60 years in the spotlight. Elvis Presley was born in a 2-room house in Tupelo, Mississippi in 1935. During his peak years, he lived at his famous Graceland mansion in Memphis, Tennessee. which he purchased in 1957 for $125. Something surprising about the king of rock and roll. Despite his worldwide fame, Elvis never once performed a concert outside of North America, with his only international shows being in Canada. Elvis passed away on August 16, 1977, at age 42, at his beloved Graceland home from heart failure related to prescription drug abuse. His legacy as the catalyst who popularized rock and roll continues to thrive, with Graceland welcoming over 600,000 visitors annually and his music still selling millions of copies. Elvis remains the best-selling solo artist in music history, with estimated sales of over 1 billion records worldwide. Carole King was born as Carole Klein in Manhattan, New York in 1942. During her peak in the early 70s, she lived in Los Angeles' Laurel Canyon neighborhood while recording her landmark album, Tapestry. What many people don't realize is that before becoming a performer herself, Carole had already written over 100 hit songs for other artists like the Shirelles, Aretha Franklin, and the Monkees. Today, at 82 years old, Carole has stepped back from the spotlight and lives a quiet life on her ranch in Idaho. She rarely performs publicly now, but made an exception when she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a performer in 2021, having already been inducted as a songwriter. Years earlier, her timeless songs continue to be covered by new generations of artists, ensuring her musical legacy will endure for decades to come. Stevie Nicks. Stevie Nicks was born in Phoenix, Arizona in 1948 and grew up moving frequently due to her father's corporate career. During her peak in the late 70s, she lived in Los Angeles while Fleetwood Mac created their masterpiece album, Rumors, amid personal turmoil and romantic breakups within the band. A historic achievement in rock history. Stevie is the only woman ever to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice, first with Fleetwood Mac in 1998, and then as a solo artist in 2019. Today, at 76 years old, Stevie divides her time between homes in Los Angeles and Phoenix. She continues to tour both as a solo artist and with Fleetwood Mac, enchanting audiences with her mystical stage presence and distinctive voice. Her influence on fashion and female empowerment in rock music has inspired countless artists from Courtney Love to Taylor Swift. B.B. King B.B. King was born Riley B. King on a cotton plantation in Itabena, Mississippi in 1925. During his peak years in the 60s and 70s, he lived in Las Vegas while performing an average of 300 concerts annually for decades. A fascinating story. B.B. named all his guitars Lucille after a woman who inspired two men to fight and knock over a kerosene heater in a club where he was performing in 1949. B.B. passed away on May 14, 2015, at age 89 in Las Vegas, Nevada. His funeral procession down Memphis's Beale Street, where he first became known as the Blues Boy, later shortened to B.B., was attended by thousands of mourners. As one of the three kings of the blues guitar, alongside Albert and Freddie King, B.B.'s distinctive string bending and vibrato technique influenced virtually every electric guitarist who followed him, while his tireless touring schedule and kind personality made him blues music's greatest ambassador to the world. Elton John was born Reginald Dwight in Pinner, England in 1947, but built his music career in America. During his peak in the 70s, he lived primarily in Los Angeles while dominating the charts with his flamboyant performances and catchy melodies. A testament to his remarkable musical talent, Elton can compose entire songs in as little as 10 minutes, and he famously wrote the music for Your Song over breakfast while his longtime lyricist Bernie Taupin was eating. Today, at 77 years old, Elton divides his time between homes in London and Nice, France, with his husband David Furnish and their two sons. He completed his farewell tour in 2023 after more than 50 years of touring. Throughout his career, Elton has sold over 300 million records worldwide, composed for films and Broadway, and established himself as one of the most successful and enduring musical artists of all time. Marvin Gaye was born in Washington, D.C. in 1939, the son of a church minister. During his peak in the early 70s, he lived in Los Angeles while creating socially conscious masterpieces like What's Going On that revolutionized soul music. Not many people know that before becoming Motown's greatest male vocalist, Marvin actually worked as a session drummer for the label and played on early hits by other artists. Tragically, Marvin was shot and killed by his own father on April 1, 1984, at age 44 in Los Angeles, just one day before his 45th birthday. The incident occurred after an argument in the family home where Marvin had been staying with his parents. His musical legacy remains unmatched, with his smooth vocal style and innovative production techniques influencing generations of R&B and soul artists who followed him. Neil Young was born in Toronto, Canada in 1945, but moved to the United States in the mid-60s to pursue his music career. During his peak in the early 70s, he lived on his ranch in Northern California while creating classic albums like Harvest and performing with Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. Here's something unexpected. Beyond music, Neil is a passionate model train collector and once owned part of the Lionel Model Train Company, even developing patented control systems for them. Today, at 79 years old, Neil divides his time between homes in Colorado and Hawaii with his wife, actress Daryl Hannah. He remains incredibly prolific, releasing multiple albums and archival projects annually, while being a fierce advocate for environmental causes, family farming, and high-quality audio. His distinctive voice and uncompromising artistic vision have earned him the nickname the Godfather of Grunge, and cemented his place as one of rock's most influential and enduring artists.